Hey everybody, welcome back to another Sunday special. Thank you so much for joining me. If you are new to these, what I do in these sort of videos is basically I go through a bunch of major markets and I talk about potential trade ideas or setups for the week ahead. Now, if you like these and you want me to keep doing them, the best way for you to let me know is to like the video down below. Thank you so much for that. It does help us YouTubers out and allows more people to see this content going into the future. So euro dollar, I say we jump right into it and just start and see what's going on with this pair. This pair has been very choppy for a while. Now, I think with everything going on, though, this very well could change. So let me go ahead and draw in a couple zones here. So we have two real big zones here that kind of outline this back and forth zone that we've been talking about here on Euro USD. So we've got rejection across the top here, and price actually closed out the week very close to the top of this range, which is going to be a big deal. I'll talk about that in just a moment. On the other side of it, we do have support down here, but I think going into this week, it will be very interesting to see if Euro USD can actually break through that high point. Now, the reason I say that is because the elections, although they are still being debated and there's a bunch of controversy around them, it's looking like Joe Biden is going to take the presidency. Now, what my opinion is on this, and this is not my political opinion, it's purely just what I think could happen in markets, is I think the US dollar might actually come down on this news. Now, stocks might be a different story. We could actually see stocks rise. But the big thing here is that going into a potential Biden presidency could mean that the US dollar could push lower. And here's the reason why. If Biden gets elected, which I think he is technically considered the winner right now, but I know there's just a lot of people out there that are back and forth about it. So right now, we have what looks to be a Biden presidency coming in. Now, the reason I think that the US dollar could come down off of the news of that is because what happened last time we had a stimulus package come out? Well, the US dollar came down pretty hard, okay? Well, I think that the Biden campaign or the Biden administration could look to push stimulus packages going into 2021, or we'll see. But I think that could lead to a weaker dollar, and I think that markets are going to be reflecting that, and in fact they already are. You can see Euro USD moving higher. Okay, why is that bearish for the dollar? Well, if the euro is moving higher, that means the US dollar relatively is being pushed lower. So that could be one thing to look out for this week, is on this news of Biden officially becoming the president-elect. That could push Euro USD above this level. And now, for me, that is a fundamental starting point. So I usually use fundamentals as a way to decide the direction of a market that I'm looking for, and then technicals to actually get in and get out. So if price were to break through this rejection area, I think that something like this, looking for some sort of continuation, could be a really decent setup on Euro USD, and that is my top favorite setup right now for Euro dollar going into this week. Now, you might ask, well, where would you put stops and targets? Well, for me, if we were to break this and get some sort of retest, of course, I would have to revisit this upon actually seeing it start to play out. It would be something like this. And of course, any trades that I actually end up taking will be shared inside of the A1 trading community. If you are not already a member of our community, come join us, come try us out. Just join up for a month if you are not sure about it and see if it is for you. There's a link down below in the description. You can find out information about the community, but I share my trades inside there as well as a couple of our other analysts do. And so if I end up taking any trades, I will definitely be posting them inside of there. So if euro dollar does seem to break higher this week, I think that selling the dollar and going for the euro instead could be an interesting play going into this week. So that is just my opinion there. We'll see what happens. Let's move on to something else. Let's actually talk, while we're on this subject, about gold, which also could be set to move higher here as we push through some key resistance. So we actually have this resistance right around the 1920, 1930 range that we broke and closed above last week. Now, the reason this is significant is we've been watching this downward trend line inside of the community. I've been sharing this, or I've been talking to a few people who have been watching gold, and I basically said, hey, if we break above this, I'm interested in being long. Now, unfortunately, we didn't get any sort of major pullback yet, but for me, this whole area is looking interesting on the buy side. So if we were to see some sort of dip there, to me, I'm interested in going long and trying to ride this back to highs if it wants to get there. Again, I think that the risk to reward is pretty decent. So if we were to see a dip here, similar to our Euro USD concept, let's say we go back and test that 50-day moving average here. Well, there's a decent risk to reward here in my view, looking at something like this underneath that zone and potentially even going for moves back to highs. That could be a really nice 3.5 to 1 trade. Again, we will see if that decides to play out. Could be, we could see Monday morning when things start getting going, we could see this thing already heading up back to highs and we could miss that trade. That's going to happen sometimes, but this is a trade that I am interested in and will be looking out for going into this week as well. Again, if I take the trade, I will share it inside of the group with members. So let's do one more US dollar one. Let's actually take a look at USDCAD. We did get some interesting things go on Friday with NFP coming out, which didn't really move the markets much, but it did have some interesting information. Job reports were good for the US, which is kind of bullish for the US dollar. So we did see a little bit of a bounce there, but faded towards the end of the week because, again, still I think that the dominant catalyst right now is going to be the presidency and the elections across the board. So something to think about there. So we saw NFP actually do very little, but this big level here is interesting for USD-CAD. We did break. I have a short open on dollar Canadian that's going well. Basically, a break of this level got me in short. And now as we come into this bigger zone of support, the big question will be, can this hold? If so, I'll probably just take, a small loss on my trade if that happens. But I'm anticipating that we could actually see this longer term trend start to roll over and break through support. Again, when the market is dominating one way or the other, usually I'm not trying to place a bunch of faith in this support level. So it's not that I don't think that this level could hold. It definitely could. We could see a bounce off this level that's a little bit more substantial. But the dominant trend is down, and so my view is that I think that support levels here are not as interesting to me as resistance levels. So selling at resistance in a strong downtrend is more interesting than buying support in a downtrend, in my view. So with that said, looking to see if we can get below this level here. Again, my overall bearish thesis on the US dollar. If we can see that play out this week, then I'm going to be looking for other setups. But again, I already have a dollar Canadian short, so we will see how this one plays out going into this week. But it is what it is. We'll see how that one goes. But I just want to talk about that one for those of you guys who are members, still watching dollar Canadian to see if we can get some downside this week. Okay, let's talk about something that's not just the US dollar. Let's see, we could take a look at GBPJPY. What did GJ do last week? So we got a lot of choppiness here on this pair. And this one's an interesting one because you have the GBP, right, versus JPY. And the reason that this is significant is this is a risk on and this is a risk off currency. What that means is that during times of fear, people buy this and sell this a lot of times, right? At least in recent history. Now, with this, with things going bullish, if the markets consider the elections and consider the current situation bullish, which they have in the stock market, this could actually move higher. So that's something that I will be looking out for on a fundamental basis, is looking for bullish opportunities on GBPJPY. That will be something that I personally watch going into this week as well. Something like a break of structure here could be interesting. You can see we tried to get above that when I think this was, I could be wrong about this, but this is maybe, was this last Thursday? Yeah, there's election night. So when it looked pretty good for Trump, I guess this pair started moving higher, but faded and actually went lower as the script kind of flipped and went in the favor of Biden. Now, we do have kind of a gridlock situation in our elections as well, which I think is very, very good for markets because, and this is, again, not my political opinion, but gridlock, let me just say this. So gridlock basically is a standard of, okay, well, a good chance things are going to stay the status quo. And that is good for markets because markets don't like uncertainty. They don't like big changes that they don't know about, right? So the S&P 500 here has rallied off of the fact that we kind of have a gridlock where we have, the Senate looking potentially Republican and we have the presidency going Democrat. So that sort of situation provides a little bit of stability because they're going to be kind of clashing and not getting as much done as if you had a blue wave or a red wave in our elections. So that gridlock situation could actually be good. And really, just to go off on a tangent here for my stock followers, we saw things like Apple, we saw things like Google actually get a really big bid this week because of the situation. You can see they jumped, gapped up here from the lows there, up 11 or so %. I was happy with this because I do hold these stocks. But you can see a lot of those jumping real hard off of this potential gridlock situation because there's an interesting concept where they have talked about breaking up these big dominant companies. And I know this is more for you guys are Forex traders. This is not as interesting, but for those of you guys who follow stocks, things like Google and Facebook and Apple, they actually jumped really hard this week off of this idea because, again, they have talked about breaking up these quote-unquote monopolies that Google, Facebook, Apple, Amazon have over other companies. They've talked about breaking them up. But if there is a split election where we have Republicans and Democrats holding power, it's much less likely that that agenda could get pushed. So that is good for those companies. At least that's my viewpoint. I also saw Jeremy from Financial Education talking about this and very much agreed with his thesis there. So that's my opinions there on Google, Apple, Facebook, all those sort of things as well going into this week. Is I'm still bullish on them. I hold them myself, or at least some of them. I don't have Netflix. I don't have Amazon, but I have Google, Facebook, Apple, and some other ones. But yeah, check out my stock videos if you're interested in that as well. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you got something out of this Sunday special. This has been fun to do with you guys every week, and I know a lot of you guys are seemingly enjoying my rants. So if you are enjoying them, again, make sure to smash that like button. Hey, join us in the community if you have not already. We'd love to have you come trade with us and hang out with us and see some of you guys in there. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great week.